Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to Breakthrough. My name is Mark Anthony Peter. It's been so long. So nice to see you all. We were on a sort of a 2-week break, unintentional, but circumstances happen. But we're back. And I am joined again, all the way from Tobago, with my co-host, Mr. Sean Michael Small. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Mark.
And he's chewing. Good Lord.
I'm chewing because, ladies and gentlemen, this is legit the only time I had to eat breakfast.
Oh, my
Because
word.
unfortunately, today just decided to be very busy for me after Talking Point. So some of you might have seen me already for the morning. I've changed locations. I am sheltering in place from the impending 10th plague of TNT that we're experiencing with regards to the mosquitoes. Also, the heat is brutal at times. Something about the Sister Isle and the humidity, it just hits different. But Mark, great to be here. Breakthrough. We've missed 2 weeks, but we have a very special guest with us, one that I'm very happy to see. Someone that we met at that art expo
Yes.
a while ago.
Yes. So if you all remember, Sean and I went to the Fine Art Market, and this was featured on the very first episode of Breakthrough, actually. And she was so kind enough to give us like an impromptu sort of interview there. But now she's joined with us in studio. Please welcome visual artist, Jaye. Good morning.
Ooh, I like how you say my name. That was nice, Shai. I like that. Hello, everyone.
How are you? How are you this morning?
I am doing well.
Okay, so good to have you.
Well. Thank you. We have been trying this week after week, so I am glad I finally made it here.
Yes, so we're going to get right into it. So
Okay.
first we're going to put the spotlight on you.
On me.
Right on you. All right. So, we got to know you a little bit at the Fine Art Market, right? And we asked you a couple of questions, but how did you really, but we're going to go a little bit deeper. How did you really get into artistry, visual artistry, painting, and that sort of thing, and mixed media?
You want the backstory?
Yes.
Well, I've always been a creative. I've always enjoyed using my hands, making things, being creative, even as a kid. But as we get older, responsibilities tend to block our hobbies. So, there's school, there's work, and even though I would do some projects here and there, really, I think the only time that I experienced free time in a long time was right after college. I was starting a new job, and it hadn't started yet. So I was kind of like in this limbo period, like I didn't have homework to do. That's new. I didn't have any projects, I didn't have any assignments. And the job hadn't started yet. So I was just like, wow, I have free time. I could actually do something that I enjoy doing. And I was just like, you know what? I took a selfie or something, or I think I had some references. And I was just like, I just feel like painting. Like, no pressure, I just feel like painting. And I just went to the store and bought some cheap paints and some brushes. And once I started getting back into it, I was like, wait a minute. I forgot I could do this for real, So honestly, after that, I did another painting, just whatever references, whatever inspiration. And people who knew me back then, they knew me for singing. Don't ask me to sing anything now. The dust is attacking me.
I know.
So even if it was coming, I'm squashing it now, right?
Okay.
But people back then, they know me for singing. And, I had friends that, make music and producers, and we would spend time in the studio. But with making music, it was such a group project, I am the vocalist, but I'm not the engineer, I'm not the instrumentalist, I'm not the mixer, So it takes such teamwork to really put out quality music. And so even though, yes, I was dabbling in the music, once I started painting, my best friend, he's a big hype man. He was like, yo, like he was taking my paintings to everybody. He was like that proud mom that who got like pictures in her wall, like, look at my babies.
We need a hype man in our life all the time.
So he kept showing everybody, and I remember he showed the producer, and he was like, yo, look at what Jai could do. And he was just like, yo, you could feed yourself with this. And that resonated with me so hard, because it's like, it was an opportunity for me to be creative, to connect with people and to be able to create a livelihood for myself as well, doing something I enjoyed. I went to school for business marketing and merchandising and
Right.
admin and all of just business in general.
Right.
And, it can get boring when your business is to promote business.
Okay. Okay.
So being able to pair the two together where now my business can promote my artistry and I can use the tools that I have in business to really propel my art and my creativity as a career, as well as an outlet to be creative.
Okay, well, it's interesting that you mentioned what you studied because now you have a registry. That's sort of a, the TT Artist Registry, which is basically like, I guess a community.
Yes.
How did that start? And what is it for any visual artists who may want to get in on it?
Yes, lovely. So a lot of moving around and transition and stuff. And additionally, I am an art hoarder.
Okay.
It's really hard for me to sell my artwork. I really hoard most of my pieces. And so it came to a point where I really didn't have much artwork for sale, but I had all of these platforms available. I have a website, I have, social media platforms, I do promotion. And I wasn't really feeling fulfillment from promoting one art piece I have left in inventory, or I don't really have anything for sale, I don't really have anything to put out there. So being so immersed in local artistry and our talent here, it was so amazing to see how much talent there is here, And
we actually have a few of your pieces.
Yes, I'm looking at that there. Yes. So
wow, sunrise. But I like the one that we just showed, the sunrise to sunset one.
Yes.
That is, how did you sort of decide to blend? How do you decide which colors you want to blend and stuff?
Okay. So let me finish the first question and
yeah,
then I'll segue.
Yes.
So no problem at all. We're excited because I'm excited too. But basically, it was just an avenue for me to still use all of the resources that I had for my artistry, but to share it with other people who might be more focused on developing art pieces, or they're in their creative bag and they're just painting, but they're not really doing marketing. They don't really have a website to list everything. So I really just saw it as an opportunity to share resources. And, especially coming out of the pandemic, things were so limited, communication and interaction was so limited. So it kind of created a virtual space where artists can discover other artists, support other artists, and just kind of have that community where we can pursue our artistry past just, I just paint sometimes. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now it could be like you have international clients, you participating in different galleries, we have store placements. So it's really just, honestly, just me sharing the resources that I use to propel my artistry with others. I see a hand, class.
Yeah.
Oh, well, because I wanted to ask this and you touched on it.
Okay.
With regards to your background as an artist, because just the way how you speak, but also how you title your pieces made me, before you mentioned the fact that you sang or people would have known you as a singer before, it made me think that you obviously had some other, I guess, if not background, then interest in other artistic pursuits. So I guess it's a two-part question. On one hand, how long have you done painting? Is it that you now started after you finished university to paint on a serious level? And then the other part is, what else are you interested in besides painting and maybe singing? Because I find your title choices, you name your paintings in a very interesting way that perhaps makes me wonder how far do you go into literature and lyricism and maybe even at one point songwriting?
Oh, wow.
That's a good question, isn't it? Making me think about myself. Is this an interview or a dating show? Right? That's a really interesting observation. I would say that in my education, I did lean more towards English writing, creative writing,
Okay.
literature, versus numbers and maths.
Yeah.
Give me a calculator and I'll still get it wrong. A shame. But, you know, but that's a good observation. I do also think I'm corny.
Okay.
I love a good pun.
Right.
Right?
We saw that last time.
I love a good pun.
I think there was one particular page. It was a man, and there were like palm trees,
Yes.
leaves behind him, and you
Yes.
literally called it what?
The one with the palm trees, her name was Facepalm.
Right.
The one with the bamboo in the background, her name is Bamboozled. And the one with a bunch of vines, that one is Entanglement.
Right.
And it's a three-piece story. You're trying to figure out who related
But
to who.
for people to understand, it wasn't just you had vines and it was literal entanglement. It was a relationship,
It was a
kind of
relationship between the
storyline,
pieces,
speaking
yes.
about
Yes.
romantic entanglements. That
And
was
I
part of the message in the piece, right?
Yes. And I think too, even though I'm comfortable expressing myself verbally, I do tend to not,
Okay.
right? I do tend to not. I don't know, sometimes I feel like people aren't listening, and even, I don't like talking, and you ain't even taking on my talking. I do
Okay.
all this talking, you ain't understand what I just say, like,
Right. Okay.
So I find,
like the one-sided type of conversation.
yeah, you know, even me, I'm carrying the conversation, you dry. So I find myself very, reserved as I've
Okay.
gotten older. And in my creativity in the paintings, I think it really allows that channel that I think you're observing there, where it's just like, it's a conversation. It's
Right.
a messaging in the pieces. It's not just a fruit bowl and, oh, that's all well done,
Yeah,
fruit bowl. Like,
a generic C-section piece
yeah,
or something like that.
it's you can tell there's messages underlying, and you know, conversations that can be had from a piece. There's room for interpretation. I see our next hand class.
Well, because as you mentioned, and I wanted to ask you, this is something that I've been thinking about as I got older myself. I believe every artist needs to have something to say for their work to have, you know, some sort of meaning beyond generic football, generic project piece.
Right.
I paint a building, I paint, you know, like, and maybe it's up to the viewer or the listener or the consumer. But what do you make about that? About the fact that I'm not sure if everyone who wants to be an artist genuinely has anything to say. They just do, and we get something generic, but not any message behind it.
You know, ultimately it's just expression, you know, so whether they have a big message or whether the message is in the artwork itself. So for us, we might just see a fruit bowl, but for them, they might be practicing a new technique,
Yeah.
or trying out new brushes, or, you know, working with colors that they usually don't work. So I think it really, it's a personal relationship that artists have with their artwork. So it's, you know, the viewer can interpret things differently, or,
Right.
you know, there's room for interpretation, but whether the message is clear, whether it's obvious, or whether you don't get it at all, the artist puts something into it, you
Right.
know, even if it was just a personal journey for them to develop their artistry, they
Right.
still put something into it, you know?
Okay, nice. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. So, but speaking of conversations, the conversation is going to continue. All right, we're going to take a quick break and then we'll be right back. Stay tuned. This is a look at our trip to the fine art market entitled Curiosity. I DM'd Sean the event ad, and with some, heavy convincing, he eventually agreed. So we headed to Anchorage, located in Chaguaramas, to go check out the fine art market. Now, the works displayed by these talented artists were absolutely amazing. We saw many displays of landscapes, mixed media, acrylic pouring, and portraits of all kinds. It was very much a rewarding experience. A mixture of expressionism and impressionism from many of the artists. And we eventually came to the conclusion that these artists are absolute hidden treasures in our culture. One of these artists that we visited, her black and white illustration was one of our personal favorites. Oh yes, There were free sorrel wine samples, locally produced by the way. Sean was very much impressed with the taste. I had to drive, so I couldn't take any samples. Anyway, we caught up with one of the artists. Her brand was By Jaye. Her perspectives were intriguing. It kind of moves the observer to really think about what they are seeing. Many of her illustrations have very, very much unique names. So that guy with the palm trees, it's literally called Face Palm. But she was kind enough to give us a few moments of her time to chat. So check it out. Hope you enjoy.
Hi, my name is Jaye, and today I am presenting my artistry by Jaye here at the Fine Art Market. It's been a lovely day. I've been showcasing my work. I have prints available framed. I have originals available framed. Been connecting with different artists, been connecting with different art collectors, and now I'm connecting with you. So with my artistry, I tend to gravitate to more of a surreal style, right? It allows me to be able to blend different themes together to, put contrasting ideas into one composition. So it doesn't have to be too literal. So even though it's a landscape, I might, place a woman in the trees or, have something else blending in the background, or maybe the scene opens up to reveal something else. So it really gives me room to express myself more instead of being confined to just recreating something literally. Now I get to add my imagination to it, so I get to add my perspective on how I interpret a scenery or interpret something that I'm feeling and how to express that. Guiltily, I tend to be my own muse, not necessarily, I guess it is on purpose, but more so I think it's easy for me to express what I'm experiencing. So a lot of my art pieces do have a feminine perspective, they do have a personal perspective. So I do tend to be my own muse, but also kind of incorporating how different environments can influence me, and then also how it can influence other people. Because even though I might be the muse in a piece, someone else would still be able to resonate with it because of its abstract, flair. It's not too literal, so they can kind of see themselves in it. Even if I was the intended muse, they can still, be able to envision themselves in that piece or resonate with the same emotion that went into creating the piece. I don't feel limited by it. If anything, I think it gives me an opportunity to explore a bit. So yes, it would still be in my style. It would still have my flair to it because I'm creating it. But it allows me to now envision somebody else's perspective, or to be able to understand what they're trying to express, and give myself that challenge in trying to tap into where their headspace might be at. And it allows me to connect better with people also, because now I kind of have to understand what you're describing to then be able to portray that. Yes. And for the second question, if someone has ever come to me to create something that isn't my usual, that does happen. I think sometimes people like something that you've done, but they want something particular to them. And I like that challenge because it helps you push past your comfort zone, and helps you push past those boundaries, and it helps you explore different ways that you can create something using what you already do, using what you already understand, maybe your style, maybe your technique, but now it helps you push the envelope a little bit and step outside of your regular box to really explore something that you wouldn't have considered doing on your own if they didn't come to you and tell you to try something different.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business. I'm nothing to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No,
of this game.
not no.
Let's go to the last part.
This is 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for. It's called loss and damage, and we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region.
Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
We are tackling the hard-hitting topics, some controversial topics, some topics we sweep under the rug. You don't always have to forgive in a relationship for it to move forward.
If it is you are in a situation where you forgive the person, but to the detriment of yourself, what are you really doing?
It is very uncommon for somebody in the younger age group to have dementia.
Atheists don't not believe.
Is that I can't disprove God, but you also can't prove God, so we cannot have a stalemate.
You'll focus on the woman who's being the victim,
right,
or the man who's being the victim. We exclude the children.
Folks are trying to study the underlying brain mechanism to figure out how does this particular disorder happen in the brain? How is the brain processing this?
Don't worry about AI, worry about humans working with AI.
Are you willing to learn new skills to stay relevant for the future job market? That's the challenge that people are going to struggle with.
And welcome back to Breakthrough, ladies and gentlemen. Trinidad and Tobago, thank you for staying with us. As you can see, right next to me, something is about to happen. All right? I'm still here with my co-host, Sean Michael Small, who's just as equally excited to see how this is going to go down. All right?
I'm not gonna lie. I wish I was in the studio so that I could kind of experience this firsthand and watch things unfold firsthand. I'll just have to make do like the audience with the camera.
I know. But he'll be back soon, ladies and gentlemen, and we are still joined by Jai. Right?
Me.
So you have a little bit of a little activity for us
Okay.
today. So why don't you explain it to them and to me, because this is the first time I'm hearing about it.
Okay. Well, the activity that we're going to do is an activity that I do sometimes in my art tutorials. So we have like painting classes, art classes.
Okay.
You know, we invite different artists on the directory to come and teach different classes because art is so broad,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
I paint, but you know, there's charcoal, there's crochet.
Yeah.
Crochet, there's just so much, you know? So what we're gonna do today, it's really an exercise that kind of helps us get comfortable with our brushes, get comfortable with our colors. You roll up your sleeves.
Yeah, I
yes.
have to roll up my sleeves for this
We're
one.
both wearing white. We are so brave.
We are so brave, but that's such an artist thing to do because if it adds a pop of color, you're still gonna wear it.
I'm still gonna wear it. It's not gonna stop the show at all.
Of course.
All right.
So what are we gonna do?
Okay, and so even just circling back to one of the questions you asked me earlier about the sunrise
Yes, the
painting.
sunrise,
Yes.
yeah.
So with that one, that's actually a picture that I took when I was in Tobago at Crown Point.
Okay.
And God is the best artist because literally the amount of colors that was in the sky, the amount of textures in the clouds, like it was so amazing. So I really took that painting as a challenge to see how much of that detail I could capture. And I promise you, I will never do it again. I would never do it again.
No, you
so
can't
that
say
painting,
that.
No, that painting, every time I price it, I add another 0 because I'm like, I will never do this again.
Okay.
Yes, I believe I did ask you about that very painting when I saw you, and the price was way out of my current price range.
Sean and I's, tax bracket combined.
But what that painting really taught me was really utilizing different brushes to get different outcomes. There's some finger painting going on in that. There's big brushes, there's small brushes. So we're just gonna tap into some of that today. All right. So we're gonna just start off by wetting our brush.
That's mine? Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
And this exercise, it's a very free-flowing exercise. This isn't supposed to, have you too focused about what the end come or the result is going to be. It's just more so to be in tune with the process and just to practice. Yeah. Right. So what we'll do is, because I'm going to give you creative freedom, what you're going to do is pick a color.
Blue.
Any color. Okay. All right, so the brushes that we're using, they are flat square brushes, all right? So that's the kind of brush strokes that we're gonna get from it. I'm gonna go with this blue.
All right.
So we can both do blue.
Just a quick one, and I did do visual art for C-seconds.
Oh, so you know what you're doing.
So I may have
I should have given you a harder task.
I may have an advantage.
Did not tell me this. Okay. Wait until we're on camera to just slide that in.
Yeah,
like, by the way.
By the way, BT does.
Because if you told me that before, I was coming with a Picasso.
Yeah,
and
I wasn't gonna embarrass myself on national TV at all.
Okay, so it's just very free flowing, and what we're gonna do with this brush, we're going to try to make really thick lines. Okay. So they can be. You could even dab it if you want to dab it in your palette a little bit to get all of the paint on the brush. And really just free flowing anywhere, anyhow, but the goal is to try to practice making our lines really thick. So even as they fade through like that, you can just go back over it, and you just really want to just kind of work the paints in.
Cool.
Yeah?
Sean, how we looking?
Well, start, so
I know, right? It's like
one does not critique a piece when it is in progress.
That's the worst. Like as an artist, like you'll be in the middle of the ugliest stage, and they're like, "What is that? That not looking like that? How that looking, sir?" I'm just like, I just started, so I would be impressed if it was looking like the final result without it being the final result.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, that's something I think a lot of people might not understand. I've seen some time-lapse painting go on where I don't know if the artist was correcting a mistake or he was literally just putting a foundation down, but the amount of layers that could go into a good painting, where he might, you might literally, I assume, basically paint the canvas like 2 or 3 times over to kind of get the final effect. Is that correct? In a lot of times?
It is, and that's why I prefer painting over like other forms of artistry, like people who do ink and marker, and I am so impressed by them because it's like
that's so permanent.
It is. It's so permanent. Like once you put it down, like that's what you're working with, and that's really it. But with painting, it really gives me room to make mistakes, to cover up the mistakes, to experiment with something, to create another layer, to go back again. So it's really I don't know, it's really a lot of self-discovery
Here's another question, right?
Sure.
At least maybe not so much with modern art, but I find with singing, part of what makes a good live performance interesting is you hear the slight imperfections of the human voice as opposed to something very produced in a studio.
Right.
And for painting, do you think there's a similar aspect when you're looking at a somewhat organic painting, whether it is of a sailboat, of a building, what have you, but of a definitive subject or even slightly abstract? There's something in the artist making use of the slight imperfections of the human hand and human perception to kind of make it more real as opposed to a digital, everything is so perfect, that it loses a human touch.
What do you think?
I think for me personally, I am impressed by people who do realism and their ability to make something look so exact, I'm impressed with the skill that goes into that. But I resonate more with expression. So just kind of like what you were describing, like the imperfections, the brushstrokes, the colors that aren't the literal colors or the traditional colors for something, using colors that are unexpected. Because I think the distortion that is created implies the expression of the artist. So if I were to have a picture and I just do hyper-realism and I recreate that picture, you can be impressed with that skill set. But when an artist distorts something and adds their own style and their own, maybe they use chunky brush strokes or loose brush strokes, or make one eye big and one eye small, or the macro, it really shows. Yeah, you know what I mean? It really shows the artist's perspective on something that we're all seeing. It's the same apple, it's the same fruit bowl, but the artist's perspective in those imperfections, I think, is what really makes art art.
And that's something, there are two things that jump out to me as you say that. One, there is a concept in the history of like Western music. In the late 19th, early 20th century, you had to do two distinctions of impressionism and expressionism.
Right.
So impressionism basically, in the music, it basically, you compose something based on something that already exists.
Right.
Right? So if the piece is called Rainforest, it's an impression of, you'll hear real sounds. But then the expressionism is really the exploration of like the bizarre, the dreamy, that sort of thing. And you really get a chance to do that. And then there is also that case where with artists, you kind of know what you are going to do, but then it does not come out as perfect. But then it's those mistakes those little imperfections, quote unquote, that other people sort of appreciate.
Yes.
But this is
That's a
good.
good point, Mark. Jahid, have you ever had someone praise something and you're like, I don't like that, but they're like, that's the most interesting part of the piece to me, because there was one rap artist who it happened to him, the part that he didn't like, Kendrick kept into the song, and it worked out that to the audience, to the consumer, that was the most memorable part of his verse.
All right, so before you answer that question, what are we doing
The next
next?
instruction, okay?
What's the next
Yes, because I was
instruction?
just like, hold on. Okay, so
Yes.
now we're going to switch.
Okay. Oh.
I know.
Okay. All right.
A little interactive.
Switch.
Okay, now I'm going to let you pick any other color that you like.
Another color that I
Another
like?
color that you
Okay. All right, I will use, I'll just use silver. Why not?
All right, and this time we are similarly going to do the straight lines, but this time we're going to do really thin lines. So even if you want to use the same brush, well, yours is flat, so you can just use the thin side of it.
Yeah.
And this time we're just going to freestyle with thin lines in this color.
Okay. All right.
And to answer your question, right? I'm biased. I think everything I do is exceptional. So if you like it, I'm not surprised, because I like it too.
Oh, wow. I wasn't expecting that answer. I love it. But you know what? That's a level of confidence that I aspire to. You know what? Big up you. Big
So
up
it's
you.
just
Big
like
up you.
you, I give me too. I'm not surprised at all.
Oh, wow.
But I can say sometimes the pieces that people consider their favorites, I do enjoy what I learn about them from that.
Oh, okay. Gives you an insight into
it gives
the
me
audience.
insights on people because I know why I like it. I know what's, you know, gravitating me towards it and things, but it's interesting how much I learn about other people, how their perspective comes into play, and something that I didn't even notice. Now that they pointed out, I can't unsee it, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Do either of you subscribe to the fact that, because usually if you have a message in the art, the artist will think this is the message, but then critics, analysts, audience might derive their own meaning.
Right.
Sometimes the artist agrees, sometimes the artist hates it.
Uh-huh.
What do you all make about that?
I enjoy it. I think it gives the art new life over and over again, you know, because my interpretation of it would always be my interpretation. But then when someone gets the opportunity to interact with it and they see something differently, even if it's not what I meant, even if it's not what I was intending to imply, you know, I appreciate having a different perspective on it, you know. And honestly, too, I don't take it personally because it really is a reflection of how someone else is feeling. So I have some abstract pieces, and it's like different shades of blue, and when different people watch it, some people look at it and it's like, I feel like I'm falling under. Some people might watch it and they say, I feel like I'm above looking down. Some people might watch it and they feel like, I feel like it's a storm brewing around me. All of those answers are right because that's your interpretation of it. So I wouldn't really take it personally. Well, no, it's supposed to be the point of view. You're underwater looking up. I want to get back to that.
I think I know which one you're speaking about. It might be my favorite work of yours.
You guys are super fans. I like it.
But Mark, to give Jaya a chance to get to her painting, what do you think about that same thing?
I think whether or not, I don't think the really differences in opinion matters. I think once you can have the discussion and how the nature of the discussion, right? Because I can't imagine, like, as an artist, when somebody sees your painting or your work of art, expresses their opinion of, oh, this is what I see, then all of a sudden you're like, no, that's not what it's supposed to be, right? Or if the artist asks the person, because we always have that one standby audience member who's like, no, this is what it should be, this is what it's supposed to be, that sort of thing. And then the artist is like, no, other people will have. So I guess it's the nature in the discussion for me. But I think engaging in the discussion is part of what makes us who we are and part of what makes us human and creative beings.
Now, we do have a whole other topic that we should be getting into, at least touch on. And they do link to part of the discussion that we've had before. But moving on from just speaking necessarily on Jaya and her career per se, there was, though, something that you did mention earlier that I think leads to this point. And when an artist is trying to break into the industry, maybe be professional, maybe not full-time professional, but at least try to get somewhere with their work on a professional basis, there are different things that they should try to do, look out for. One of the things that's interesting that was a piece of advice that Mark came upon online is cultivating a network and connecting with a wider artistic community. And I found it interesting, Jai, that you yourself found you had a hard time connecting, communicating with people, driving conversation. And I do wonder to what extent locally do artists, how easy it is for everyone to connect, to network, to share ideas? Or is it that artists locally, professionally, are kind of still going at it alone, outside, of course, of your initiative with your network and database of artists and other similar things?
All right.
So instructions first,
instructions first, right?
Switch.
It's the tally for me.
Yes. So this is really just fun. This is just
Okay.
interactive.
Choosing another color?
Yes, we are
Okay.
choosing another color.
All right.
I'm going to go with this one.
I think I'll go with
And to answer your question, ultimately, I think it comes down to how much you choose to want to get involved. Because we can always say, I don't have opportunities, I don't know where to go, I don't know. And might be the case in some, industries. There might be more resources that would be helpful to people. There might be more things that need to be put into place to help people be successful. But ultimately, if you want to get involved in artistry locally, there's a lot of galleries, there's a lot of artists, like it starts with just attending a couple shows, go a couple open nights, see who you meet, I do sometimes think with artistry, it can be a very me space, right? Because you're creating your artwork and you want your artwork to be more exceptional to your viewers. So your artwork will get sold or but for me, it was never so much a competition because, we both have the same instructions here. Look how different the pieces are coming out.
Yeah.
So it's never been a competition. It's always just been what do you want out of it? Do you want community? Do you talk to other artists? Do you reach out to other artists? Do you ask for help? Do you go to the galleries? Do you say, hey, I'm interested, here's my contact? Do you practice? Do you work on your craft? Do you set up a portfolio? So it really doesn't matter where. It would never be easy, but I can tell the difference in how people receive artwork, how enthusiastic they are to support local artistry. You really do have to find your crowd for that. What you mixing over there? You mixing colors?
Yeah, trying to
I catch you.
What do we do?
So this time we're gonna deviate from the straight lines and really just get into some swirls, get into some circles, get into some shapes. It can overlap, it can fit in the spaces. Yours is still a little bit wet. In some places, it might be drier now.
That's all right, yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So even if they mix. It is what it is. Yeah.
The colors are meant to mix. That's what they're there for.
Yeah, that's what they're there for.
All right. Cool.
So I think I kind of answered that to an extent.
Yeah, I think so.
So and this one I think goes to both of y'all because it could apply outside of visual artistry. But one of the things, and it is that the advice is to warn people, I guess, that an art career, successful one, generally, yes, there might be some exceptions to this, and they may become one-hit wonders, or they may go on to have sustained careers, but a successful art career is a long-term thing. You're in it for the long haul.
Right.
You're not going to see overnight success.
Right.
In part because, like many professions, you have to go through the lumps. There are lessons to be learned. Some of it might be the business side, some of it might be the artistry side. Do you think that too many Trinidadians, they either ascribe to that too much, and it's like, yes, well, I'm working at it, and they don't necessarily progress, or they get discouraged with the first sign of adversity, and maybe they let their talents kind of wane and go to waste as they pivot away from art?
Wow. You have views on that? No, you're looking at me like, what you about to say, girl?
What you about to say?
What you about to say, girl?
But you're the guest.
I know.
I'm here with my purple minding my business, okay?
So what I could say on that is, I think a lot of artists don't believe in themselves enough, ultimately. I think that a lot of people are talented. But they don't believe in themselves enough. So what tends to happen is, without that belief in self, it's really hard to push through the challenges, I've been, fortunate to be able to travel with my artistry a lot, and it is more reassuring when you go to places that is so eager for artistry, they can tell that the artwork is vivid and Caribbean reflecting, and they're like, take my money, and then You know, it's really like that when I go to different places. They're like, oh my God, I want everything. And they buy a lot. And then it's challenging when you go to another space and they're like, that nice.
Oof.
And that's the end of it.
Right.
You know? But ultimately, if you believe in yourself and you believe that this is for a long term, then you find creativity in those opportunities. So with that, what I mean is, I think as artists, which is ironic, artistry is so broad. I think the worst thing you can do is to limit yourself as to what you can or can't do. So sometimes people think like, okay, the only way I can be a successful artist is if I put paint on canvas and sell the canvas, right? Mm-hmm. But we're in 2024, there's so much technology. You could put paint on canvas and then turn that canvas and that artwork into a laptop cover. And now you are known for having unique artistic laptop covers. You know, you could turn it into a t-shirt line. Now you are known to have graphic, unique, hand-painted tees. You know what I mean? So there's so much room to explore different things, but it always stems from if the artists believe in themselves enough to try to do something that's, you know, a little unusual.
Okay.
Well, let's shift to Mark. So, Jai, you can get some paint on your canvas. Let's go a little bit to the flip side. This is not part of the advice given. Usually, perseverance is one of the things that artists need to hear. But I do think that there might be those who perhaps the struggling artists, they kind of want to stay the struggling artists.
They do.
And they're not necessarily progressing in their career.
They don't.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that some artists kind of use the struggle is real as a crutch? As opposed to either trying to develop their skills, whether commercial or artistic, to advance, and they're just comfortable kind of doing whatever it is they're doing at whatever pace they want to do it?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that?
I get what you're saying. I'm gonna use another word. You said crutch. I'm gonna use the word identity. Now I think the struggling artist sometimes tends to be the struggling artist because that's what they identify with, and sadly that's what's portrayed on like commercial media, right? In terms of like the TV shows and the movies that you're watching and stuff like that, depending on what you expose yourself to. And if you don't know, especially if you don't know any real person that has actually gone through it, and I don't want to say made it out, because when you're making the point immediately my mind came to, well, I know a lot of successful people in the music industry. It doesn't mean that their struggles didn't stop. It just means that their resilience grew and they knew how to handle certain things, right? So I do think with some of us, and I think it happens in all fields where there's sort of a victim mentality, and we get so attached to that that we don't know when it is that we've gotten our break. There's also I'll make a point very quickly about scarcity culture in the arts, where we are always used to not having enough, that when we do get enough, it's hard to recognize where we do have it.
Yes. Just to add to that, I do agree. I think it's easier to accept that the reason why you are not successful, it's because of external reasons. You know, it's how it is. It's, you know, it's the market. It's what people are interested. So it's easy. It doesn't make your failures personal, because it's just like, it's because of everybody else. It's not because I'm not putting in the work. And definitely what you were saying with, you know, even when those resources are available, because you're so accustomed to them not being available. Because I feel like sometimes I encounter that, because here I am like, okay, you need a website, I have a website for you. Right. You need a place to sell your artwork, we have multiple locations locally and internationally. You need this, we have so many resources, and then they're just like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not sure. So then it's no longer what's available, it's what they are comfortable pushing themselves moving forward with.
The physical roadblocks have also become mental and emotional roadblocks, where it's like they're not ready to take that extra step. And I think I've mentioned it on the show before, the power of choice, making certain choices for your own. Not everybody's path is different. Success does not look like there's not a straight line. Sometimes it looks like these things.
What's going on here?
I'll have to cut you there, Mark, because we're more or less out of time. Now, there was more that we could have talked about, and maybe we could have a follow-up discussion on the commercial aspects of arts. I do think, Jaya, you are someone, given your educational background, might have a bit more of a perspective than a lot of artists, as well as your experience. But we'll have to put a pause in any potential conversation there. We do have the fruits of your labor to show to the audience. The maybe not so finished products.
Listen, you don't know that. You don't know that.
The work in progress.
The work in progress, yes. And I saw what you did there. That was, you were trying to invite me to a second date. I accept. You said there's more we need to discuss. I accept.
Oh my gosh, yes. We love it. We love it.
Let's see it, because from my perspective through the camera, both look very different, and especially since they're supposed to be the same colors, right?
No, we kind of switched up the colors.
We switched up the colors. Yeah. So the first time we did the blue strokes, and then after that our last two colors. So I did some silver, and she continued with some pink, and she did orange, and I continued with some purple. The colors that I was mixing. Yes. All right. Now, Jaya, before we do, and it's really good. I really love it. I'm grateful that you came today.
Oh, thank you.
But before we head out, I know that you have a bunch of social media pages that people can follow.
Oh my goodness.
3 of them of which I follow already. So why don't you tell the people where we can find you?
All right. So for My Artistry by Jai, you can find me on social platforms at by Jai. That's BYJAIYE. Also byjai.com. And for the TT Artist Directory platform, that's the platform for, you know, local artists. If you have a project coming up, you have a mural, you have an idea, you have, you know, maybe a watercolor something or a mosaic something, we have a range of artists on that platform. And you can find that at ttartist.com, or you could go on social platforms and you can look up ttartist.directory. Additionally, for the artists that believe in themselves and really want the resources to just encourage them on their artistic journey, you can follow TT Artist at, I think, like Instagram and such. And also everything is on ttartist.com. So when you go there, whether you're looking to buy artwork, you can buy it on the website. Or if you're looking to sell artwork, you can find resources that we can connect you with to sell your artwork there as well.
Thank you so much.
I'm clearly a busy lady.
Thank you.
I do too much.
Thank you, but that's okay. As creators and artists, we kind of have to do the most.
We cannot help it.
We cannot help it.
It's so stressful. I'm like, why do I give myself so much to do?
I know. Ladies and gentlemen, Trinidad and Tobago, Jai, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Sean Michael, thank you so much. I really appreciate that you were here all the way in Tobago. We'll have you back soon, very, very soon.
Next week.
Very good. Lovely. Trinidad and Tobago, this has been Breakthrough. I hope you enjoyed today. Make sure to stay safe, stay artistic, stay creative, and stay supporting our artists, all right? Have a wonderful day and a wonderful week ahead of you. Bye-bye.